Now, one of the dilemmas we have is we all experience what I would call a comfort zone, which in fact may not be all that comfortable, but it's familiar. And picture that comfort zone as a circle. Stepping outside of the circle into the unfamiliar typically creates disquiet, discomfort, anxiety, stress. And that usually becomes the justification for why we don't go there, why we don't engage it. It's uncomfortable or it makes me anxious. But the irony is, unless we learn to change our relationship with the stress, with the anxiety, we don't get to emerge. We don't get that quality of an evolving life experience. So the stress, the discomfort, the disquiet isn't the problem. The problem is our relationship with it. What we need to do is alter our relationship and begin to embrace it. So when I'm working with people and they're saying, you know, it really makes me uncomfortable, I'll say, well, that's good. It makes me anxious. I'm happy to hear it. Change your relationship with the anxiety. Embrace it. You see, what we typically do is we go like this to what we're afraid of. We try to stay away from it. And that gives it a force that it smacks up against, and it becomes formidable. It becomes powerful. And we become rooted in this relationship whereby the anxiety, the stress, the disquiet rules us. It becomes our master. We become enslaved with it. But if we paradoxically learn to shift our relationship with it, the whole thing begins to shift. Now, when we come out of the comfort zone, we need to continue to make progress and move further and further out, because if we don't, there's almost a gravitational pull, an orbit field, where we stay rooted in that orbit. This becomes very similar to what I was discussing earlier in terms of getting stuck in the groove. So the model for coming out of the familiar zone or the comfort zone is to change our relationship with disquiet. Now, all organisms evolve when they come out of certainty, when they come out of predictability. Chaos theory and complexity theory teach us that the only time organisms, by the way, of which we are one, the human organism, the only way organisms evolve and grow is to come out of predictability. Now, how do we come out of predictability if we're rooted in Newton's world of predictability, of those gears in that machine? We're stuck in predictability. As a culture, we create this credo, if not myth, that we need to avoid chaos at all costs. We need to avoid uncertainty. If you're feeling some chaos, if you're feeling some unpredictability, typically the first thing somebody's going to tell you to do is take some medication. Therapists typically try to teach you not to engage in chaos. Some, hopefully, are more enlightened and treat it differently. Chaos isn't bad. Uncertainty isn't bad. A free fall full of despair is bad. I'm not proposing that. But only by engaging uncertainty and a little bit of chaos can we come out of the predictability to grow. So by predictability, I don't mean lack of movement. Think of predictability as the swing of a pendulum. And if it weren't for friction, we could predict with certainty the to and fro of the pendulum. We'd be able to know with certainty where it is. But we need to come out of that certainty of predictability. Another term for that is equilibrium, which is predictability. So when organisms, when people come out of predictability is when growth occurs. But we have a problem. We're trying to avoid that at all costs. Everybody's trying to get us back to normal, back to predictable, back to being the cog in the machine, which defies our human quality. When I ask the question and explore and research, and the question is, do you experience growth? Have anyone experienced growth without fear, pain, loss, struggle, disquiet? I'm hard-pressed to recall anyone ever saying yes. So if those uncertainties, if those disquiets and discomforts can be seen as our allies, then we will be coming out of the comfort zone, and we will be shifting into what temporarily feels like a discomfort zone. But you see, then that new discomfort zone expands and our comfort zone gets larger and larger. And it opens up for us into new life experiences. Now, everything I'm sharing with you has a profound impact, again, on our relationships. Relationships come into states of predictability. As I started to reference earlier, they become completely predictable. Your night out becomes predictable. Your sexual patterns and habits become predictable. A relationship can grow, and most often does grow, when there's a little chaos brought in. Now, chaos is not the same as abuse. Chaos is not the same as disrespect. That's no way what I'm suggesting. But chaos is upsetting the predictability, the state of equilibrium in the relationship, whereby it may still feel safe, but there's new information going on. There's a new spiraling of evolution occurring.